The entrepreneurial lifestyle can be very tough at times, and there's times we get stuff in our lives we go, I don't like that. I want to get rid of it all. Well, the good news is at any moment you can have a rebirth. Matter of fact, even a radical rebirth. And that's the topic of this book that we're going to look at, and a book that's written by a buddy of mine. He is a self-made multi-millionaire, Speaker Hall of Fame. His name is Randy Gage, and he's got some wisdom for us entrepreneurs who believe in freedom and liberty. So join us now as we talk about that on this episode of Agorapreneurs.
Welcome to Agorapreneurs, standing for liberty and freedom, all done peacefully. Now, here is your guide, TerryBrock.
Sometimes in life we go through really tough times, and that's quite often. And the nice thing about it, though, is we can at any time have a new birth. We can have a rebirth, if you will. And we can do that whenever we want. A good friend of mine, dear friend, who's no longer with us, named Joaquim de Posada, would say that we can have a new beginning anytime we want it. And I agree with Joaquim on that. I think we can do that. And there's some other things that we can do right now. We can even have a radical rebirth. There's a book out that I saw, I wanted to share with you, called Radical Rebirth, How to Kill Off the Old You and Create a New Life. And the author of that book is Randy Gage, and he is joining us right now from his offices there in Miami. Randy, good to have you with us today.
Hey, we have another mutual friend who's no longer with us, who also used to say that. If you remember Ray Pelletier.
Oh, yes.
He used to always say, hey, any day can be January 1st.
Exactly. January 1st was his day. Wonderful, dear friend. Well, Randy, you've done a marvelous job with this book. As I look at the book here, and I read your book, I really enjoyed what you had to say there about looking at different ways of life, what it's going to do, what we can do. And you've said some things that some people would consider a little bit out there, but I think it's right on target with what we need, and now more than ever. Tell us a little bit from the 30,000 foot point of view, what Radical Rebirth is all about.
Yeah, I feel, Terry, it's like the culmination of my work for the last 20 or 25 years, that a formula, a system, because this is how I think. I'm like you. You and I are very similar in that way. We're very rational, logical, analytical.
Yeah.
So I apply that. Yeah, and I apply that philosophy to the way I approach life and how I approach personal growth and self-development. And so I'm relentlessly analyzing my progress. How am I doing? Am I getting closer to a higher version of myself? That's all I can ask every day. It's just, did I get a little closer to the highest possible version of myself? And I realized kind of with I have friends who would say, well, Gage is on his fourth midlife crisis. Let's see if he figures this one out. And I always respond that actually, I hope I have another 4 or 5 midlife crisis while I'm still hanging around this planet or the next.
Absolutely. One. Yeah. Why not on a regular basis? We're reevaluating where we are and starting over again regularly.
Yeah. And so I looked at what I have been doing subconsciously, and it was killing off an old version of myself. When I was 15 years old, sitting in the jail cell for armed robbery, looking at my future prospects for life, I realized, you know what? This guy I am right now isn't going to get me to where I want to go. I got to kill him off. And I felt like the first couple of times I did, that's what I was doing, is I was killing off an old version of me. And now I feel like I've graduated to a point where I'm retiring certain things about myself I don't like and replacing them with new beliefs, new behaviors. And instead of running away from the old me I hated, I'm running toward the new version of me I want to become. And the book is really my methodology for how I think I did that and how I think the reader can do that. And obviously,
I think you've done a really good job in doing that and putting it together. So let's get into this. I want to take a look at some of the chapters and some of the quotes that you have here. Like for instance, this first one here, I thought was particularly good. When we look at what you said first, let's get some of the silly beliefs out of the way. I like the way you're starting with that, where you're saying, okay, let's look at start with the misconception that you have about money being bad or evil. Now, this is really important because too many people today are thinking, yeah, that money is really bad. And you've helped us a lot in understanding it's not like that. It's a misconception about it. It's simply a medium of exchange. Governments attempt to assign it an unilateral worth, but it actually fluctuates all the time. The only real value of money is what you're willing to receive or trade for it. Money is neutral. There is nothing bad about it or good about it unless you knowingly or unknowingly attach an emotion or motive to it. Tell us what you mean by that and how you came up with those kind of real insights on money.
Yeah, because we do assign evil or good benefit to it. And for most people, it's evil. And for the first half of my life, I assigned that evil belief to it and never knew that I did it. Because on the conscious level, I kept trying to be successful. I wanted to become wealthy. I've been raised poor. I hated it. I always wanted to escape poverty and become wealthy. So on this conscious level, I had this belief that I wanted to be wealthy and successful. But I still had that subconscious programming that money is bad and rich people are evil. And so unknowing to me, I was sabotaging I'd take a step forward and then it was 2 steps back because I didn't know I was running into conflict with my belief that I didn't want to be an evil, mean, nasty, rich person. And as you know, having read the book, I just give people chapter and verse, the TV shows, the movies, the podcasts, the plays, the operas, the social media, case study after case study of how they get programmed with those kind of beliefs.
Yeah, there's a lot of evidence for that. And I love the way you put that in the book. I've never seen it done so clearly and exhaustively because it's just a programming and people say money equals bad. I guess it gets started with some people saying, well, the love of money is the root of all evil, which is not really the way it is in the Bible. It's, I believe that it's actually the root of all good, as we saw in Atlas Shrugged.
Yeah. And, the people who've read the book, preview copies, and people like you, it's like the TV shows and the movie. Like when I talk about the mind viruses of orphans and how emotional they are, and then I do that list of the orphan, Batman, Superman, Harry Potter, and they see that list, which just goes on and on and on.
I was amazed. Yeah, when I saw like all those characters, I thought, wow, that's something.
Yeah, I mean, it blows your mind. It just blows your mind. Same thing when I do the hero's journey and some of these other frequent mind viruses that we get programmed with. And it doesn't matter if you're 60, 40, 20, 100, I can look back at what were the big cultural TV shows, movies, operas, plays, books, of your era. And I can show you the evil, negative programming that you got infected with.
Yeah, absolutely. That happens all the time. Well, going along with that, another thing I saw in the book that I wanted to share with you and get your reaction on here. Don't let who you have been prevent you from being who you can become. Because sometimes version 1.0 of the software isn't the one that works in the market, and sometimes neither version 2.0 or 3.0. And I'd have to agree with you on that. Having worked with a lot of software, we see it. But as long as you're willing to keep fixing bugs, that's important. And making upgrades, real important, you eventually get to the version that works. And that's what this delicious experience we call life is really about. The journey of unfolding into the person you are truly meant to be. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, as you see, my work is for a certain category of people. The guy or gal who's like, life's a bitch and then you die and just keep your head below the cubicle and stay out of trouble and binge watch, whatever on Netflix all weekend and drink a 12-pack of beer and, forget about your life until Monday morning when you start it all over again. They're not going to appreciate my work and I don't work for them. But for the people who really say, I do want to evolve. I do want to become wiser or more enlightened. I do want to work toward that highest possible version of myself. I'm trying to give them permission to forgive themselves for not being there yet, because we all love to beat ourselves up because we're not perfect. And then make them really understand that they're not meant to be perfect, that it is that, and it's, it seems like such a cliche that it's about the journey, not the destination. But there's a reason that's a cliche, because if you don't savor those moments, if you don't treasure the daily growth, then there is no joy in life. There is no prosperity in your life if you just beating yourself up, because we like to measure the internal version of ourselves that we know. We know every petty thought we've ever had, every misdeed we ever said, every hurtful thing we ever said. And we compare it with this movie star who's being interviewed by Jimmy Kimmel, or the posts that our friends put on their Instagram pages. And we're taking the internal version of us and measuring it against the external version, the painted white wall, makeup, beautiful filtered version of everyone. And that's not what it's about. We're all imperfect beings. It's like, that we had the inauguration recently here in the US, and the US is about becoming a more perfect union, knowing that we're not a perfect union. It's about the journey of that. And I feel the same way on personal growth. It's about that journey of becoming a more perfect person, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. And a lot of that imperfections that we have is exacerbated by the world we live in. And there have been those that say, hey, we're all part of, remember that movie, The Matrix? And Randy, you talk about that extensively in your book. I'm going to go into another territory here, which is really important. What you said here, I think, is really profound. You said, pause, take a deep breath before you read this next one. I'm not joking about living in the Matrix, because you really are living in a matrix. It's just not configured like the one in the movies. The real matrix is a collection of machines used for surveillance and data gathering. And this includes every online search you perform, what you buy, your website visits, your social media posts, the things you ask for voice assistants, the apps running in the background in the phone, and what you stream for entertainment, and on and on. Randy, this is pretty bold stuff, and I have to agree with you on that. Tell us a little bit about why so many people are living really in a matrix.
Yeah. And I'm almost afraid to talk about it. I was almost afraid to use that language in the book, because people are going to say, oh, what is he, one of these conspiracy theory kooks? And he thinks, we're living in an alternate reality. But what people need to really get is there really is a matrix, but there wasn't those agents who created it like the movie. The matrix was created by machine learning, artificial intelligence, the algorithms that they run, and marketers and governments, Mark Zuckerberg wants to know, when I send a WhatsApp message to Terry, if I mention skiing in there, he wants to know, okay, so we need to put a ski commercial on the front roll of the next YouTube video that Randy watches, or when he goes to my Facebook company on his Facebook page, we're going to have that. And so you have Amazon and Google and Apple and all of them, and some are better than others, but they all basically are mining your data. And the thing that shocks people, I don't remember the exact words in the book, but basically I can show you that Instacart could know a woman is pregnant before she knows herself.
Yeah, I remember that in the book. And that is true stories in that.
Yeah, Amazon can know your sexual identity that you may not know, right? Google knows things about you that your spouse doesn't know, that your mother doesn't know, that you may not know yourself. Because they know everything you asked Alexa. They know every ad you clicked. They know every podcast you listened to, every YouTube video you watched, every link you clicked, every like on. So your friend said, boy, Trump this, and you liked it. Okay, we know how she feels about that. Or Biden this. Oh, so we know how he feels about him. And okay, so let's give him another link because we need him to stay on our platform as many hours in the day as possible, because that's how we make our money, is selling advertising to this, you are the product on Facebook or Instagram, right? So they need you there more so that they can sell more ads that you're going to click on. And that creates a matrix. And Amazon didn't plan it. Facebook didn't plan it. The government didn't plan it. But every time these algorithms say, wow, okay, so Terry likes skiing. Oh, Terry's looking at hotels in Colorado. Oh, Terry's probably looking for a skiing vacation in Colorado. We could sell him an ad for a ski resort in Boulder. And this machine learning just keeps advancing, and it has essentially created a matrix.
Yep, exactly. And it's something there that we see and we recognize that. And I love the way that you, in the book, you talk about ways we can handle that and what we can do to overcome it. And now another area that you went into that a lot of people say, oh, I'm not going to get into this area, but you have boldly and in a very helpful way addressed something else that's a pretty big one. Here's another one, Randy. We talk about religion, and you mentioned some of your friends who have lost their children very sadly there. You say, my fight is not with God, but organized religion. The fight is driven by my desire to combat the two most destructive and dangerous beliefs religions propagate. I think this is right on target, Randy. Number one, that you are not worthy to be healthy, happy, and prosperous. And number two, that your real life hasn't begun yet. And you patiently slog your way through the warm-up, you'll be rewarded with your true life and happiness a little bit later. Tell us about that, Randy.
Right. So just full disclosure, no matter what religion you are, you will be offended by my book. So whether you're Muslim or Hindu or whatever, I guarantee it, you'll be just as offended as the other religions are. But if you're willing to take that chance and allow me to introduce how you might have been given some really dangerous beliefs that prevent you from being healthy, happy, and prosperous, it's worth the journey. Because and I looked at everything, the Muslim code of law, the Buddhist eightfold path, the concept of a Tao and reincarnation and grace, and what do we call in Christianity, the birth, you're born a sorry sinner, right? Look at all of those precepts, all of those concepts. And I've spent many years studying all the world's major organized religions. And I don't have a problem with your belief in a God or a spiritual entity. And I have a problem with your belief that your religion serves you and nurtures you. I think it's beautiful. And I don't know, none of us know. We all can say so people, you can say your religion is the only way, but you got to understand there's another 3 billion people who think their religion is the only way, and you can't prove it, and neither can they. All my job is in this book, my podcast, my blog, is to say, well, let's look at some of these beliefs. If you believe that you were reincarnated here on this existence right now to pay penance because you were a camel thief 3 lifetimes ago, what are the chances you're going to allow yourself to be happy and prosperous? If you believe that you were born a sorry sinner and you're supposed to spend your whole life this time around begging for forgiveness and rubbing rosary beads and all of that, and that the real reward is in the afterlife, again, you're going to do what I did. You're going to self-sabotage yourself because you're going to say, well, I'm not worthy of this. If you think you have to live 150 lifetimes to become enlightened, and you're only on lifetime number 119 or 121, again, what's the chances you're going to allow yourself to be happy, healthy, prosperous?
Yeah, I think very good point. Well, Randy, you talk about those topics very, very well, very eloquently. And then toward the end of the book, which is really, really good, you talk about how we can have that radical rebirth. So rather than me finding one specific example of that, I'd like to just turn it over to you here. And that person that's watching this right now, they're saying, hey, Randy, you're making sense. This sounds good. What do they do specifically? What should he or she do specifically to turn their life around and have that radical rebirth?
Yeah, we're going to reverse engineer the process. We're going to look at where you are right now and know there's no accident. Wherever you are right now, if you're worth as the same amount as Elon Musk, or if you're $50,000 in credit card debt, that didn't happen by accident. You got there because that was your vision of who you are. And don't be mad at me. I don't make the rules. I just enforce them. Okay. What I'm telling you is do random things happen? Yes. A meteorite could land on the boat that's sitting out in the bay in front of me right now. And the guy or gal who owns that boat, they had no control over that. So I will allow there are random events. But what I will argue to the death is that there are no random lives, and that your situation in life is a result of, if we had James Allen here, he would say, your life is the result of the thoughts you give precedence to. And so the formula I have in the book is, okay, you create beliefs. And I think there's 6 main areas of your life: money, success, health and wellness, marriage, relationships, God, religion, sex and sexuality, your work and career. And we all get core foundational beliefs in each one of those areas. So again, if we take the religion one, and your belief is you're born a sorry sinner and you're not supposed to get a reward till the afterlife, that's a core foundational belief that's going to help you create a certain vision. If your belief about health is that breakfast is a box of cereal which has an expiration date 4 years from now, and that's real food, and that it's just normal that you add 5 pounds in weight for every decade you're on the planet, and that it's normal that at 50 years old you're taking 10 or 15 daily prescriptions and have high cholesterol and high blood pressure, and you're getting your leg amputated because you've got diabetes. If you think, well, that's normal, well, there are beliefs that caused you to think that's normal. And based on those beliefs, you created a vision. Based on that vision, that determined your self-esteem. And I think this is the missing link in prosperity that people don't understand, is the level of your self-esteem, because all the worthiness issues come out of that, right? Mm-hmm. The person who gets to 19 or 20, makes that tipping point from the teen years into adulthood, where they're going to go out in the world. And we know if we got 2 people, both 19 years old, both from same everything, but one has high self-esteem and one has low self-esteem, we know we're going to come back 20 years later. The person with low self-esteem isn't going to apply for the better jobs. They're not going to approach the person they really want to talk to at that dinner party. They're not going to exercise because they don't believe that they're supposed to be healthy. They're not, you know what I mean? They will make choices based on that vision, based on those beliefs. Whereas the person with high self-esteem feels like, well, yeah, I should apply for that job, and I should try to attempt this bold, daring, imaginative thing, right? So this self-esteem creates your daily habits. And we like to see these motivational posters and you and I know 100 motivational speakers who will say, you create your own destiny. But you don't actually create your destiny. You create your daily activities, and those are going to create your destiny.
That always leads to it. There's a reason why.
Yeah. So this is a long answer to your really great question, which is, hey, how does somebody turn their life around? And I'm saying, okay, now we know the formula. Beliefs create vision. Vision creates self-esteem. Self-esteem creates actions. Actions create results, create our life. So we're just going to reverse engineer the process. And in each of those 6 major areas I mentioned, we go back and we find your core foundational beliefs. And then we analyze them. Okay, does this belief really serve you? Right? Or is this belief holding you back? Is this a limiting belief? Is this a belief that causes you to self-sabotage? And if it is, we're going to blow up that belief and we're going to replace it with a more empowering belief. And when we go back and do that and we change the programming, because the programming is what sets the belief. So if we're going to watch Fox News or MSNBC all night, we're going to wake up every morning with breaking alerts from the media on what happened in the news. That's the programming is creating our beliefs, right? So we've got to change the programming and change the beliefs. And then it changes everything else in the process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, the book is called Radical Rebirth. Kill off the old you and create a new life. Randy Gage shows us how to do that. He shows us what can be done and how you can turn your life around. Randy, we really appreciate you doing that and appreciate, I have to say, knowing you as a good friend, you live that and you are the same in person as you are when you're on the stage. And we appreciate that. Appreciate your new book. Any final words you want to say to that person watching this before we say goodbye?
Yeah, since you've given me that chance, here's what would I want to say. I think I would say, 1, don't judge yourself too harshly. There's an analogy I use in the book that imagine the Death Star is coming, the Emperor and Darth Vader and all the bad guys.
Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, they're bringing the Death Star to your planet and they're firing up that beam that's going, and then you're standing there on the surface with a steak knife trying to defend the planet. That's the analogy of you fighting the programming that you've been receiving 24 hours a day, 7 days a week since you were a baby. So if you're listening or watching this show right now and you're not in prison, you're not in a homeless shelter, you're not in a mental institution, you're already way ahead of where you should be. And even if you are in one of those places, it's quite understandable. It's amazing. We're not all in those places, right? So let's give yourself some forgiveness that if your life isn't what you want it to be, if you're not who you want to be, and give yourself permission to change that. And know that you really can change that. And and very few people would know this. And I talked about it on one of my prosperity live streams. That's the only time I've ever talked about this in public. But I talked about a journal that I wrote on Christmas Eve one year when I was staying at the Miami Airport Marriott after breaking up in my 11th dysfunctional negative relationship in a row. And I had that journal where I was writing why I was going to kill myself and why it just didn't make sense to go on anymore. And I'm blessed. I got professional help. I had a therapist I could call. And fortunately, I didn't take that action, right? And I'm so grateful ever since.
So are we that you did not do that.
Yeah, thank you. But that's what I want people to know, that you don't have to kill yourself if you don't like you. You can kill off the parts of you that you don't like, and you can replace them with parts you do like.
Randy, that's tweetable.
Yeah. So please give yourself that chance, right?
Yes. Absolutely. Good words of wisdom and insight and very helpful to us. Randy, thank you again. We appreciate what you've done here and how you're helping us.
Hey, thank you. Big hugs to you and Gina. Thanks for putting this out there. I'm just trying to get this book out in the world, and I appreciate your support getting behind it.
Oh, you bet. And now, for those of you that are watching this, think about what you've just heard. You've heard from a very wise man who's respected by literally hundreds of thousands, millions around the world. What he's saying is right. This book can help you. It's something that can really turn you around. And whether you get the book or not, we hope you do, because it's really good. For a few coins, you have something that can change your life. But think about it. You can change your life. You take control of it, take control of your mind, and go forward. That's what we talk about in Agorapreneurs. The idea of being in control of your life in an entrepreneurial style and in the Agora fashion of living, where you live voluntarily and with freedom and liberty. That's what it's all about. Hey, I look forward to hearing from you. I'm Terry Brock. Thanks for joining us today on this session today.